Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Edge, how to sharpen your competitive advantage and make a positive impact as a leader in your organization and community. I'm Emily Chiwa, and with me, as usual, is Georgia Donaldson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Georgia. And we are leadership coaches and hosts of this show. Today, we are focusing on the leader as a mediator. Now, we know that leaders wear many hats: manager, coach, trainer, facilitator, mentor, connector, executor, planner, negotiator, and it goes on and on, right? And
Yes.
today we have the pleasure of having Holland Bronte Tinkew with us, who is the CEO of CLICO Credit Union and who is certified in mediation, to talk to us about why he sees mediation as a supportive skill for leaders. So welcome, Holland.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And before
Wonderful.
we bring on Holland, Georgia, I wanted to invite you, also certified in mediation, to talk to us a little about what we should be aware of before, when we hear the word mediation. What are some things you'd like leaders to maybe think of or bring to mind before we bring Holland on to give us some inspiration around this topic?
Mhm. Okay, all right, great. Thanks, Emily. And Holland, thanks. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
I did a post and I said it's a rarity. Who goes and CEO who goes and so you're like one of those rare gems and diamonds out there, Holland. So congratulations to you.
Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
so for our viewers and listeners, or those of you who are going to catch us on the replay, what really is mediation? When you think about relationships, whether it's at work, at home, whatever situation you find yourself and you're in a relationship, there are times when that relationship breaks down. And there are times when you need a third party to help with that relationship to bring it back together. Or even if you want that relationship not back to say, okay, you need to call it quits. And that's what mediation does. It's an intervention, it's a structured process that helps people when they're going through difficulties and challenges and when you want a resolution to something, to some dispute. Basically, that's what it is. And sometimes you need that person who is totally removed from. And too often, when we see our leaders in organizations, they distance themselves from that. They don't want to get involved. They say, hey, me, I ain't getting involved in that. Let somebody else do it. And even when you think about CEOs, they say somebody else lower down the totem pole needs to deal with that. Is wanting these parties to some form of resolution. So, hold on, we want to ask you to jump right in now and ask you, why would somebody at your CEO level want to become trained in mediation? Tell us about your motivation.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I think my journey started really when I became a leader, as a supervisor first, and then management, and then into the executive level. I really believe that, um, as many people say, your most important resource in the organization is human resources. But when you deal with persons, conflict definitely arises. And a lot of us think conflict is a negative thing, but sometimes conflict is good. Conflict can bring progress, conflict can bring resolution to certain issues once you deal with it correctly. Right? I think my journey with mediation started. I normally do a knowledge management session on conflict management for employees. And a lot of employees were interested in finding out how to really resolve conflict, not only in the organization, but at home as well. And that really spurred me to find out more about the topic. And that led me to mediation. And it was a very interesting course that I was able to learn a lot from, not only to really better myself, but to guide the organization better. And as a CEO, a lot of times we are, I wouldn't say stuck in the middle, but we have to also make sure that we please the board, but we also have to please our staff as well. And that in itself is a conflict.
Yes.
Not all the times those issues line up with like ducks in a row, right? So you have to kind of make sure to mediate that process as well.
Right.
Right.
Okay, good.
So,
Emily?
so Yeah. So what has it? I guess, how would you encourage, or what would you say to encourage other leaders? I mean, maybe what are some of the struggles that some people might face if they don't have this structured way of thinking of challenges or conflict or resolving it, getting to a resolution? I'm curious as to, some of the, maybe a tip or two that you might have gotten from the program that you always use in situations where conflicts arise, and conflicts are normal. And I love that you said it's healthy, because some people,
Yes.
feel like we must not avoid having healthy conversations about things, and being able to understand what what is the root of my issue, what is the root of your issue, because sometimes we have the same issue. We're just looking at it from two different
Yeah, that's
perspectives,
right.
right? Um, so yeah, so tell us some, give us some, I guess maybe an example or two, or something that you tend to use on a regular, from that mediation practice of yours,
Sure,
Holland.
sure. So the mediation process for me, it's about achieving a win-win situation
Right.
in most cases, right? And part of your job as a CEO is to build the culture of the organization and to improve the culture of that organization. And as I said, an organization is really a collection of people. And because you have a collection of people, you will have some types of conflict in there. And in building the organization, as you said before, a job of a CEO is not to sit back in an office and actually just monitor, but you actually have to get involved. You actually have to um, talk to your employees, talk to your staff, talk to your management team to guide that process and to change that culture. And part of what mediation teaches you is active listening, so you can actually understand where other person's perspectives are coming from. It also teaches you to try to escape your own bias, right? And that kind of leads us into
Yes.
emotional intelligence, because a lot of times we sit down around the table or across a desk and we listen to the person, but we only listen to really answer or to protect ourselves. And
Mhm.
mediation teaches you to almost pull yourself out of the process and become a neutral party. And that can even work even if you're not in a mediation process. Let's say you're talking to two people, you're trying to resolve an issue between two people. But even if you are talking
Mhm.
to an employee, you have to be neutral when you're talking to that employee, to your manager, right? Almost take out your own personal bias out of the process in order to solve the
Right.
problem better and in order to listen better, because sometimes we listen through our own lenses and that kind of spoils the process to begin with, right? So those two things are really important: active listening and to really escape your own bias in order to move towards a resolution. And you're not really
Mhm.
moving towards a resolution for either party. You're moving to a joint resolution where both persons walk away thinking that they're won. And that's where I think it is really important for executives to find that process, because remember, we're dealing with boards. If you don't even want to think about it on the employee level, but at the board level, if you have 9 members on the board, each person has a different personality, right?
Yes.
And you have to learn as the CEO to manage that relationship and to try to please as many board members as possible, to get your point across and also to allow them to get their point across as well, in order to make
Mhm.
sure the organization prospers.
Mhm. Holland, you said some things, and two things that stuck with me. So, one, you are not seeing mediation as a tool that you will use only with your employees, either your executive level or the other employees, but you're seeing it as a tool that you can also use with your board members. So, that's
That's
great. You know how you can apply mediation right across the board. And
agree.
then you said something else, it just came off your tongue so easily, but is one of the hardest things for leaders is the active listening and to get rid of biases.
That's
It just came so easily for you. But I know lots of leaders struggle with that, listening actively, because oftentimes things are moving so fast, they're listening only to respond. And
that's
then there are some natural biases that sometimes they do not even recognize that they have some unconscious bias. And Emily and I, as leadership coaches, we're coaching leaders, and these things come up all the time. and it's things that we try to help them to work through. How do you listen without jumping in, without making that before? And it is also said that mediation takes time. So tell us, time consuming. Are you one of those proponents of mediation that says whether or not it takes time, it is important to do it? Talk to us about that.
Yes, I would say it really depends on the situation. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of, let's say, an example of changing staff culture in an organization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty new, I would say pretty new to my current organization. I'm here 2 years, and changing culture takes time. So that is something you
Yeah.
really have to sit down with each individual employee, see where their mindset is at, actually work through issues on an individual level, and also at a
Mm-hmm.
group level as well. And those kind of things take time. You have to really employ your active listening. You have to make sure to again, as I said, escape your own bias, because when people are coming to you with a situation, they're coming to you with that situation from their perspective, and you can't say that's
Right.
wrong. You have to listen and basically put yourself in their situation in order to understand a little better. Because
Yeah.
if you look at it from through your lens, you will never understand it. And that is not really about mediation. It's not really about only understanding, but it's about really seeing things from someone else's perspective and seeing how we
Mm-hmm.
can come in the middle, right? And on the other hand, there are some situations where it's time sensitive, so you have to make decisions a little quicker, but you still have to employ the same process, but just a little faster, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's about more communication, active communication. Let's trash it out pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? But either way, it's about respecting the other person, or respecting the
Right.
person in the room, and making sure that everybody comes away from the situation. Even if they don't win, they understand why they don't win in certain cases.
Uh,
Or I wouldn't say put it,
okay.
but they understand why their, let's say, perspective wasn't taken in consideration this time, right? And they know it's not from a malicious point of view. They understand why the process went how it went. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
all that you're saying, so much of what you're saying, as you, Holland, is really about communicating and the way you communicate and
Mm-hmm.
the way you approach challenges or issues or differences.
Yes.
And I think what I'm hearing too from you, that you may have gotten from doing the program that brought these ideas to bear for you more clearly, because I mean, a lot of us have ways of approaching situations, conflict, dealing with challenges, right? But I think what I'm hearing from you with this structure is there's so many gems in what you said. There's empathy, being
Mm-hmm.
being able to think about the other person's perspective, recognizing that in order to get from here to there, I could just bulldoze my way and tell them, look, this is how it ought to be, and just
Yes.
accept it. Or you could spend some time to listen and really onboard them
Mm-hmm.
and hear what they have to say. And sometimes, great ideas come from that.
Yeah.
Just being
Mm-hmm.
able to allow yourself to be open to hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think the patience in which to do it, the intent that you have
Mm-hmm.
behind it. I'm
That's
hearing
it.
that positive intent of, let's work this out. Let's get to let's get to whatever could be this win-win in this scenario. And a win-win does not necessarily mean that we get exactly what we want, but as you say, that we understand better and more clearly, and we bought into why it is we must, why it is this way of going about something makes more sense
Mm-hmm.
to everyone, to the bigger picture, you know.
Right.
So many important things you're saying, Holland. And I mean, I did love Georgia brought out the point with the board,
Mm-hmm.
because at the core of this whole thing is relationship. And you said it yourself, Holland. The organization is a collection of people. And what are we doing every day? We're in relationship, right?
That's right.
Every conversation, every situation, we are in relationship with one another, however we want to call it. So this is awesome. I mean, I love how you're applying, and explaining how you've been applying mediation throughout different
Yes.
scenarios within within the credit union, CLICO credit union. I suppose wherever you go.
Yeah.
Yes,
A
yes.
skill that you can take anywhere.
Yeah. When you think about facilitation, you think about negotiation, you think about mediation. At the center of all of that is communication. And
Yes.
you use the word, Emily, intent, intentional. You have to be intentional about how you communicate. And that's what we're getting from you, Holland, that, this taught you a structure and how to appreciate people and how to communicate with people intentionally. So is there anything you want to leave with us, Holland, as we're wrapping up? Anything those who are listening or watching, any as they go through this week?
Sure. So the mediation course for me sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Go ahead, Holland.
Yeah, and anything that you want them to go and do.
Sure. So the mediation course was important to me to take as an executive. I'd like to encourage other executives to explore mediation as a course of study, not only executives, but supervisory level, management level as well, because it really helps you put some structure into how you approach situations, how you approach employees, how you approach building culture in your organization, how you approach even a structure of how you deal with employees, how you deal with the board as well. And it really gives you some very true gems on how to make your actually life easier as an executive. And and also get your employees to a point where they are happy as well, because as someone who practices mediation, you're always thinking about how will this affect the other person. You also are able to take a step back and see the big picture and even the little picture sometimes, in order to manage a situation much better. So it's definitely a course that I would recommend to anyone. And it also helps you not only in the boardroom or the executive rooms or meeting rooms, but it helps you at home as well. It helps you in your personal life with your friends as well. Because this mediation is something that you can use once you're dealing with another person, not necessarily in the office or in a courtroom as well. Yes, I definitely recommend everyone to take it at some point in time.
Awesome. So, Holland, thank you so much for taking the time. I want to also say that we are not sponsored, George and myself, by any company running mediation training, but we really felt it important to highlight this skill set of leadership. And I love that Holland says, if you want to make your life easier, maybe this is something, and you find that having, dealing with challenges, which are every day,
That's
right? Affect
Yeah.
you. This might be a great approach. Of course, you could connect with George and myself. You feel like coaching is another modality. You want to take on leadership and executive coaching to understand those blind spots, to understand how to set the intention, how to go about it. Of course, always helps that we practice, right? Awareness of self as leaders. That is the core, and it really helps as we develop those skill sets to create that understanding within, so we understand, as you say, Holland, those biases that are sometimes very, very hidden and not conscious to us, and creating problems in the way we communicate and come across. So again, excellent. This has been excellent, Holland. Thank you again for taking the time. Georgia, anything else you want to say as we wrap, or we just want to say to everybody, have a great day?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Who doesn't want his or her life to be easier? So this is a wrap. Take it on.
Okay.
Yes. Take it on. Take on the mediation as a challenge, people, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, Holland. Thank again. Bye.